Hello, Unreal VTubers or Unreal enthusiasts. My name is Griff, and this is my garden. I stream live on Twitch and other platforms, and today I wanted to show you how to use NDI to get a signal out to OBS. That way you can stream anything you're doing in Unreal Engine right out to OBS. But also, I want to show you how to add this clipping plane, because I work in sort of an open world environment where I'll take chat around my world and we'll walk around and do stuff. But sometimes I want to be able to show them what I'm doing on my computer. There's a few ways to do this. I mean, you can certainly send or receive NDI signals in Unreal Engine. The way my stream setup is, I stream from one computer and then I do all my work on another. So I'm streaming my Unreal Engine game to OBS on my work machine. I could stream to like a screen or something that I set up in the scene from my work machine using NDI, but I find that loop tends to cause a lot of network congestion and causes me issues. So I decided to go with this kind of setup to reduce that. So what we have here is this clipping plane attached to a camera. And as I zoom this in and out, it clips in more or less of the scene behind it. I also have a mask variable that just lets you turn that completely on or completely off. All right, so let's talk about how I did that. First thing you're going to want is the NDI Media plugin. I am using Unreal 5.7, and the NDI Media plugin used to be something you had to download. It's now included. It's marked experimental, but so far so good. It's missing a couple features from the previous versions, but it's working well enough for me. The next most important thing you're going to want is a material. So I've created a material here. It's PP clip plane. Yeah, I'm childish. I like to use PP. And a few settings you want to make sure you have here is output alpha. That's under the post-process material. Your material itself should be post-process opaque. And then the other important thing is where this renders. So we're going to do scene color before bloom as the blendable location under post-process material. All right, so let's break this down. You're going to need a scene texture post-process. When you do this, make sure you enter post-process input 0 here under the scene texture ID. You're going to want absolute world position. You're going to need a few vectors here. One is the clip plane origin. Then we have the clip plane normal. Clip plane origin is expressed as black, and that's what you're going to clip out. And the normal is the white. That's everything that's going to get left behind. And then we're going to have a few steps, multiplies, a lerp, and this masked here. So the way this works is the scene texture post process goes out to mask RGB, and that way it can be accepted by this lerp. I then have this, vector that is black. This is purely for visualization. So once you're in Unreal and you want to see where your plane is, you'll see this basically black rectangle. Those both get hooked into the lerp, and then we get this alpha input. So let's go down the chain here. So we get our clip plane origin, our clip plane normal, absolute world position and origin go into subtract. Clip plane normal goes into B of this dot product, whereas the output of this subtract goes into A. We're going to feed that whole thing into a step, mark this as 0. And then we're going to create this parameter that's called clipped. And that was the thing I was sliding to increase or decrease the transparency of the clipping. Those two things are going to feed into this multiply, and that's going to be output into the alpha of the lerp as well as the alpha of the PP clip plane. If you don't see this opacity, that's because you missed that opacity setting that we just talked about. All right, next you're going to want a NDI media output. The important things here, give it a name so you know what you're looking for. Mine's the Unreal Engine output. Output should be fill in key, and that's going to make sure you get your transparency. And then invert key output is something I had to check because the way OBS was handling transparency, I just needed to flip it, or it was giving me the opposite of what I wanted. And next I created this blueprint. It's my blueprint NDI handler. I attach all the logic here to a start output event so that I could hook this up to my UI. That way I can just turn this on whenever I want to while I'm streaming. You're going to use that NDI media output we just looked at. Make that into a variable of type NDI media output, and then pick the media output that you just created. You're going to plug that into a create media capture, and that is basically the thing that's going to capture the media from your cameras. I assign that to a variable in case I wanted to use it later. And then we're going to get a capture active scene port, and this media capture will be your target. This has got a lot of settings. I left them all default I believe, but if you're having any issues, that might be one of the first places to check. All right, so scattered throughout my scene, I have these BP camera markers, and this is just basically a blueprint that has a cinematic camera and some other features inside of it. This is where I'm going to actually set up my clipping plane, and you can see it has those attributes I talked about, the clip plane, float, offset. This is what's going to determine how far away the plane is from your camera. We'll be looking at how we set that up in a second, as well as that masked attribute. It's basically controlling this clipped value back here in the material. So first thing we're going to want to do in the construction script, I created this correct clip plane function. We're going to make sure that runs. And what that's going to do is take the cinematic camera. And oh, I should mention this first. Sorry. We have the cinematic camera in here. We also have the clip plane. This is just a scene component. And that's basically, we're just going to use that to tell the system, this is where I want to start clipping at. The distance from the camera I want to start clipping at. So, here I take the cinematic camera, I get its world location, forward vector. I then have a clip plane offset float, and this is the thing that is controlling how far away that clipping plane is from the camera. I feed the world location into a plus node, as well as the value that comes out of the forward vector and clip plane offset being multiplied. I pump that into a set world location, and that is setting the location of that clipping plane. And then just to make sure the clipping plane is aligned with the camera, I get the cinematic camera's world rotation, and I set world rotation on that clipping plane using that value. All right, next in the event graph, we're going to create a dynamic material instance. So I've created a few variables here. We have the clip plane mid, and that is a reference to the master material we made here. And then the clip plane material is going to be a dynamic material instance of this clip plane mid. So we have a clip plane offset float. That is the value that's letting me move the clipping plane. I have some vector multiplier. We're going to multiply a vector by this, and then I have my masked variable, which is ultimately what's going to control that masking, that transparency of the clipping plane that I showed you. So we're taking the clip plane material, we're creating a dynamic material instance. I'm setting the clip plane mid as that material instance. And then I'm adding or updating a blendable on the cinematic camera. That is basically saying, what is my post-processing blendable? And this is something that you could also probably control the value of its in weight if you wanted to, but right now I just have that set as 1. So here on the event tick, we are getting the world location of that clip plane, and we are setting a vector parameter, and that is that clip plane origin back in the material here, right there. And that is just telling us, where is my clipping plane right now. Then we're getting the forward vector of that clipping plane, and that is going to help us determine, where the clipping plane can move. We're going to multiply that by this vector multiplier, which I have set to -1. And I created that variable because you might want 1, you might need -1. It all kind of depends on how your clipping plane is oriented in relation to your camera. So this just gives you an out if you need to either set that to be a positive or, a negative multiplication. And with that value, we are setting the clip plane normal. That was this white right here. And lastly, we are going to set the clipped variable inside that material with our masked variable. And that masked variable is visible and public so that it can be edited inside of your level under the camera. So if you look at my setup here, it's BP camera marker, default scene root. I have a chat widget that I'm using to display my chat's texts. I have my cine camera, and the clip plane is underneath that. And then I'm calling this correct clip plane function, and that is just if I want to dynamically move this thing, or if I just want to set it per camera because I'm putting multiples of these cameras in my scene. That is just going to call that again, and that way any changes I make to these public variables will get updated in here and effectively just move my clip plane away or towards the camera. And that's pretty much all you need. So I drop these BP camera markers into my scene. You know, they're aiming wherever I want them. And like I said, I can switch between these different cameras depending on what I want to show to the audience. So once you drop these in, you know, your NDI handler is in the scene. It's just going to be managing, you know, whichever camera is active, that is the signal that I'm going to send out to OBS. And this will probably get awkward as heck, but in OBS, you just need to create a new source. It's going to be NDI. You might need to grab the NDI plugin for OBS, but you can just add an NDI source here. And when I open this up, I can see all the different sources I have available to me that are running. Just go ahead and set that, and you should be all set to go. If you have any questions, I will be writing this up as instructions at griffinmore.com, so go visit there, or feel free to hit me up, you know, in the comments. All right, thanks for watching, everybody.